Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming to this session about talking on open educational resources, or OERs, as they are popularly called. My name is Shri, and I am happy to join you this evening to talk about OERs. I want to go ahead and start out with a little introduction about myself. And before that, could I get to know you, at least where you are from? So if you could go ahead and click on this star button and use that to point on the map where you are from, it'll give me a sense of where you are from and tailor some of my speech. Awesome. Okay. Okay. We have a very nice representation from India and from the Caribbean and the United States. So we'll move ahead. So I am Shri again, and I want to tell you about my background. So I was a biochemist who made a conscious choice and moved to curriculum and instruction, both with education and experience. So went back from being in the lab to going back to school to study more about curriculum and instruction because of my penchant with pedagogy and my love for understanding how children learn. And I worked for the Department of Education in Colorado, where I was responsible for two things. One is compliance, is when the government passes a law, how does the state enforce it, and how do schools enact on those laws. And Colorado is a unique state in that sense, where they don't go out and issue tickets like a speeding ticket, you're going above speed limit. What they do is, hey, you're going a little too fast, you need to be a little too slow, here is how we can help you get slow. They tell you how to do something. So that's the part of my job that I enjoyed then. And another part of my job was to use the results from assessments to see how we can inform instruction. And that was for children with significant cognitive disabilities. And then I have been creating iPad applications in education. And my most recent was with a team called Project Ingenie, where we created iPad applications that address early intervention, and we did this when iPads were fairly new in the market, so it was very visionary. And as an educator, it was my responsibility to talk about the relevance of the touch-based interface of iPads for children with significant cognitive delay. And so I would be presenting it in conferences and creating that market acceptance, conduct pilots across the nation, do research on it. And I've come around a full circle back to my curriculum and instruction roots, and I am now working on a quality content curation platform where we curate, as in archive and collect, high quality educational resources that are applicable to individualize instruction for all students. And I too would like to talk about, I would like to get to know who here is an educator, who here is a parent, and who here is both. So if you are an educator on the poll, please press A. And if you're a parent, please press or choose B. And if you're both, then please press or choose C. So again, so if you're an educator, we have someone who joined us once. So if you're an educator, go ahead, choose A. If you're a parent, choose B. And if you're both, choose C. Awesome. So I have a basic sense of who's here in the audience. And so I'll tell you where I am with getting my individualized instruction platform. And children and students learned through a variety of information, variety of portals. They learn through textbooks, through tablets, through games, through projects, through videos, and we assess them. So they also learn through assessment and through all the homework we give them. And to individualize instruction also means to individualize all these various components that works for the strength and the pace of the student. And with this vision in mind, I started looking into individualizing instruction and realized that the tip of the iceberg lies in the content. And by that, I mean, when you go to a search engine, when you go to Google or Yahoo or any search engine and type it, I need a third grade worksheet in math, you know what happens. You get pages and pages of results. And to find out the perfect third grade math sheet that works for your child is like finding a needle in a haystack. And the analogy that I draw upon is if you go to a restaurant and order a nice apple pie, and if the restaurant waiter brings you the apples and the eggs and the pie crust and says, here are the ingredients, go make it yourself, how does that feel? That's exactly what a search engine does. Search engines are good to find one piece of information. Where can I get my tires rotated in Sacramento? Or where can I go for something in Los Angeles? But it's not the best medium or vehicle to find out good quality content. Where can I find third grade projects to teach climate change? Or where can I find an app that works for my child with cognitive delay? Search engines cannot answer that question. So this is the tip of the iceberg in terms of content curation and individualizing instruction for students. That we still have to cook our apple pie, we still have to customize all the information that a search engine can give us. So to better understand where the problems stem from and what kind of curation and content everyone is looking for, I conducted a 10-month study by talking to students, parents, and educators around the country to understand what is that they wanted. So I spoke to my friends and their kids, and my friends who are educators, took part in a lot of forums and webinars and conferences, and I spoke to school principals, special ed directors, and I went up and laterally around the chain of command to see how these problems of content trickled up and down. And I spoke to probably 50 people in this whole process of talking to each one of them at depth to understand how these problems trickled. And when I say I spoke to them, this is what it meant. The process involved, if it's not face-to-face, a Skype call, because this was around the country, and understanding what their problems were and drawing out a sketch, a hand-drawn sketch, asking if a technology existed this way, would it help? I would ask for specifics, and I always correlated the answers between what a parent said that they wanted and what a child said they wanted, and probably what their educator said they wanted. It could be an educator in a school they went to, or it could be an educator tutor they had. And my focus was on understanding the problem. So I was mostly the listener, and at the end of the call or at the end of the conversation is when I would sketch out a design. So this little guy this dog is here because of my analogy. Again, if a parent wanted something in black and the child wanted something in white, my sketch would be like, would something like this work? Is there a middle ground between what parents wanted and educators wanted and students wanted, and would that middle ground work for everyone? So this is how the process was set up. And the process was done not to publish it in a research article. It wasn't for marketing. It was more to understand, if we create something, would it be valuable? Would it be useful? Are we actually solving a problem by doing this? Are we making our own assumption? To remove all the biases and filters away and to actually provide value is why I wanted to ask. So the research was done to understand the problem and not to worry about what the solution is going to be. And so what did I learn by doing this research? The whole research was tied around what is it to be you? What is it like to be you? What is it like to be a student here or a parent with this situation? What is it like to be an educator with all the mandates posed upon them and the diminishing budgets in school? What is it like to be a parent working and worrying about content and the education that the student receives? What is it like to be a parent if they had a child with special needs and not being able to find the right textbooks? So what is it like to be each one of these audiences? That was the goal. And the second item I'm talking about is a substitute. What I found out is that most often one person plays the role of a substitute. So if you are a parent, you're substituting for an educator at some level. If you're an educator, you're substituting for something that the family is not providing at some level. I live in the East Bay area of California, and I have access to high-performing schools, low-performing schools, and I see what educator frustrations were. So sometimes they were substituting for being parents. And then I spoke to you about the trickle-down effects earlier, and so I was understanding the trickle-down effects of content. What happens if a school district doesn't have the budget to buy tablets? Or what happens when a family doesn't have access to internet? So those were the trickle-down effects of the problem I was able to study. I'm going to present you with 3 case studies that that occurred over this period of 1 year of trying to understand the problems of content and individualized instruction. The first case study is a 13-year-old girl whose school has asked her to be a part of a middle school golfing program. Her parents don't golf. This student is brilliant in math, and she was having some challenges in golf, but the school has put her in the golfing program. And when I was talking to her, she was explaining to me what her issues were with golf, and I don't golf. So sure enough, the educator I went online. I said, okay, let's see what is available online to make you learn golfing. And on page 4 of search engine search, I found out a really nice math worksheet that illustrated how to use the angles, the parabola, and the probability of making a golf shot. A math teacher had created all this, and it was on page 4. Again, it was needle in a haystack. So when I found out that, I gave it to her, and we worked through a few problems. And 2 weeks later, she called me, and she said, my golf is really good. I really can understand what to do now, because the math made sense with the golf, and the golf made sense with the math. This is not something that's assessed in the standards. This is not something that's tested in the golf class or in the classroom. And it's not something that's up front and center, but it's such a valid piece of information that so many students who are learning to golf or play soccer or play another game could use. Such valuable content is available online for free, but hidden somewhere, and it takes a while to find that out. The second case study is something that most of us could relate to. We could think about at least one child who's amazing with math again, but has problems with reading comprehension. So if you give them a math problem with numbers, they would do it. But if you gave them a math problem which involved reading comprehension, they would struggle with it, because they were trying to make sense of what the problem asked for, what was given. So I heard this over and over and over again, where because of reading comprehension problems, the child was diagnosed of something else, which was totally unnecessary. There was parental frustration and withdrawal from school. So many trickle-down effects had happened when the problem was very simple. Give the child something where the reading comprehension and math could work together. And this answer is available online and for free. But again, it's on page 10 of Google search or page 10 of Bingo or Yahoo search. So that was a case study that came up over and over again in that whole year of research. And the third case is in special education. And this is again a very popular situation where parents who have kids with a disability are constantly looking for something that's academic but tailored to their child. And I have withdrawn the names and information of people involved in these 3 cases, so I am kind of telling you the cursory information here. So in this case, the zone of proximal development, the classical Vygotskian theory, which says that every child has a certain zone where you can do many things with the involvement of an adult, and then you can do a few things without the involvement of an adult. And the goal is to move the child from being dependent on the adult to being independent. So through this process, when when schools or educational settings were not working with the pace of the child, there was a lot of parental frustration and educator frustration, and differentiation of instruction was getting challenged, and parents and educators involved with the same child were talking about it from various angles on not being able to move through that zone of proximal development to the level of independence because they were not able to find the right content because it wasn't available to them. Textbooks were not being differentiated. Online content was not being differentiated. But if you piecemeal the online content together, that information was available. So these were some of the classic examples. Given our time frame, I cannot go through everything, so I picked the 3 classical case studies which span 3 different sections. So you have a gifted child who's looking for something to connect 2 different worlds, golf and math. And the second thing is a typical problem where a child in math is not able to work with math because of reading comprehension issues. And the third is also a typical example that we see where in the world of special education, differentiation becomes a problem because alignment of content and differentiation doesn't always happen smoothly. So what did we do with this information? We went ahead and designed a platform called EdK12, and it's in beta, so which means it's still in its nuts and bolts. And what EdK12 does, it's a website. It's a website where parents and educator parents can ask and brainstorm and discuss questions on pedagogy. They can share curriculum that really works for them in their classroom. And the reason I said classroom is because it could be a classroom in a house where a parent educator is homeschooling and teaching, or it's a classroom in a public school classroom, or a classroom in a private school classroom, or in a tutoring facility. A place of education is still a classroom. And the third feature we wanted to have is the ability to find relevant, high quality content. So that is something that we wanted to have. And we had a few rubrics and guiding philosophies to create EdK12. And I want to go through those. The guiding philosophy is that it is a bottom-up process. This is a community-built process, so it's bottom-up. It's not a bunch of people going around and saying, this is going to work, this is not going to work. It is a community that is going to do this together, so it's a bottom-up process. And it's peer-rated, so educator, parent, peers can rate the content and say what works and what doesn't work. And it is made for a global community of audience, so it's not just made for students in California, or it's not just aligned to a certain context or aligned to a certain set of standards. It is made for the global community, and it is made across all platforms. So it is a web application. So it's not made for apps that are in the Apple Store or apps in the Android platform. It's not that. It's got websites, it's got apps, it's got web applications, it's got games that are available online. And the last but not the least is that it's an unbiased platform. So whoever is involved in this project should not have an affiliation with another content creator. So we are not making any content, so we don't have a bias towards A is better than B or B is better than A. We don't have a preference over iPad apps or like an Android app. We don't have a bias of sorts because we want to know what's working and at what level is it working. So these were our guiding philosophies, and I can give you the name of this website in the chat box really soon, but I have screenshots that I want to show you, and then at the end of this presentation I'll actually take you to the website because the whiteboard interface doesn't work really well for me to actually show everything live, but as soon as we're done you can go ahead and play on EdK12 yourself. So this, what I'm showing you right now, is a screenshot of EdK12, which is a website, a web application. So once you go on EdK12, you can ask a question, where can I find a math app for my child or my student that helps them with word problems? You can ask a question, and answers come both from the team as well as from the community, because something that we found out throughout this 1 year of research is that what person A wanted, person B had. it was always the case that what someone wanted, somebody else always knew the answer to it. And just that these two people were geographically far away, and social media like Facebook or Twitter, it's not the right platform to ask and share information because it's diluted by the dog and pony show of pictures and everything. And we are talking about content, education, and a place for that dialogue wasn't available in an easy to use manner. So at EdK12, you could go and ask and you would be receiving answers, and it's community moderated. So if someone is trying to offer a biased answer of sorts, it gets moderated right away. And so that's the first feature, is to ask a question. And I'm going to show you an example. So here is someone, again, please bear with me, this is a screenshot, but we will go to the website very soon. So the question is, can someone suggest fraction games for second graders? So the question was, can someone suggest fraction games for second graders? And 2 answers have been posted by the community. So there was one answer that actually gave the name of a website saying, I used this, tried this, and then us as moderators went and checked out if the website is good. And we went back and gave this person more answers on like, hey, we have something in our library, check this out. So there is this, for every question, unlike a search engine, you get relevant answers, but you also get vetted answers which are rated by your peers. So that is the ask feature. And the second feature is the share feature. The share feature is where if you have something that really works for you with your student or your child, you share it with the community saying, I have used this and this works. So someone has shared, one of our users, Cindy, had shared something this morning, which is a study that says how important sleep is for teenagers. It was a fantastic article that she pulled out, and she said, we blame adolescent teens for sleeping, but there is scientific evidence from the National Sleep Institution that says that adolescents need so much sleep, and because they don't go to bed on time, they are not able to wake up on time. So there is this metabolical, physiological effect going on that is relevant for us as educators and parents to understand. So she brought this up and we shared it here. And so the second feature is share your resources. And the next feature is finding good resources. So there are 2 ways in which you can find good resources through EdK12. The first is our content library. We have curated over 200 relevant websites, and all these that you see on EdK12 it's free resource. In the website, I get asked this question a lot. Is this a free website? And yes, of course, it's a free website. And because what I am posting here is also free. This is what you see on EdK12 is an open educational resource platform. So whatever is on this library right now is all free. So you can go check, choose the grade, choose the subject, and choose a category. Are you looking for an app? Are you looking for a video? Are you looking for a project? What are you looking for? And we have created all these resources. I think right now we are at 150 resources, and my goal is by the end of August to make it 250. I have collected them. It's just that I don't have the time to add them, so I keep adding around 10 a day. So you will see that number going up. And when we go live onto the live site, you can play around and you can see what happens. And the next means to find information is by the drop downs. Our Search EdK12 portal allows you to search by the questions posted by people. What are the questions by around 3rd grade, or what are the sources available for 3rd grade, or what are the special ed questions, or what are the math questions, or what are the science resources, or what are the social studies apps. So right now the subjects that we have included are computer science, engineering, English language arts, world languages, math, others which include management and behavioral stuff, science, social studies, and special education. In September, we are adding art, and we are adding more specific world languages, and we're going to keep increasing these subjects and focusing a lot more on STEM in terms of dividing the STEM into the various STEM resources itself. So you will see the subject categories increase, and the content, actually, the number of resources per subject per grade also increase with day. The next feature is our blog. We pick relevant topics that are going around in education right now and write a blog about it. A very proactive blog that says, okay, let's do something together. Let's stop placing blame, and let's do it's all about the how do we do something, or what educator does. And one of the blogs that we put recently is called Era of the Nerds, because of one of the case studies involved how children who are gifted find it sometimes hard in a social setting to be accepted, and which is ironic because the most famous nerds of today, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, are all nerds, and this shouldn't be the case. So there is a very bold post about it saying it is the era of the nerds and it's okay to be a geek. So these are the kinds of posts we put, and there is a nice video that goes with that particular blog, so I would encourage you to look at it if you have a child or a student who is going through that situation. And it takes a community to bring good content together. It's not one person's effort or a one team's effort. It takes a community, and here is an example of how a community can make that happen. I was at a presentation of mobile applications, and there was this app which helps people when they pack remember what box has what content in it, and it was a free app. And after the presentation, I asked the app developer, would you be, now that your app is a free app and you have all these free features, would you be willing to use this app for children who have a cognitive delay so that they know where their toys are kept, how their clothes are organized, or something that's a visual? Would you be interested in doing something like that, where all you need to do is take a few pictures and put it on your website so parents can see, I could use this for my child. So, and he was more than willing to do it, and I connected him with one of my friends who is a special ed teacher so that he could drill down the nuts and bolts of his app to make sure it works for the students. And he was more than happy to work on it, and he's working on it. As soon as he gets it done, I'll be able to put it up on our platform and announce about it. So it takes a community, an app maker living somewhere, to know that his app is going to be more useful than for just moving to a bunch of students who could organize their materials and know where things are. So it takes a community of various kinds of stakeholders to come together for OER to work, and that's something that we preach and practice on a regular basis. The other thing is to understand the needs of users. So we constantly, although the one-year study is over, we still talk to a lot of our users and ask, what are your biggest problems and what would make it easier on you? So is to understand the needs of users and to serve as this neutral conduit. Like, okay, there is the technology piece, there is the pedagogy piece, and how do you serve as a neutral conduit between the technology and the pedagogy and make sure that they align and synchronize in a nice manner? And it doesn't matter whether it's private education or public education. A child is a child. That's another guiding philosophy that we have. And our team, despite our other challenges in trying to get this whole process bootstrapped and get it out, we believe in this mission of individualized instruction through all the great content that's available otherwise. And it's kind of a very, I don't want to say sad, but it is a sad situation to see all this beautiful, amazing content available online, but hidden. The Smithsonian has amazing content. The first time I stumbled upon it, I was like, wow, this is absolutely phenomenal. And people are worrying about diminishing budgets in schools to buy books. Why do you need to buy books when you have this rich content? And then you hear about the lack of resources in developing countries. This is out there, and internet has become so easily accessible. So this content is out there for everyone. Again, it doesn't matter if it's private or public. A child is a child, and all means all. So all children have the need and have the requirement for individualized instruction. And so this is our belief. I'm going to go ahead and show you what the EdK12 site looks in reality, and then open it up for questions. I am going to give you all a couple of minutes. And if you're on the site, I encourage you to look through this orange bar, home. Your questions is where the questions go. Shared resources is where the resources from the community. EdK12 library is what we collect and we put. And search EdK12 is like this whole search through the whole platform, and then our blog. And right beneath this orange bar, you see this your questions, and underneath that you would see newest, most liked, and popular. And underneath that, you have these three drop downs: subject, grade, and category. I would like for you to use the drop down that says subject and pull that up, and you see all the subjects. Now you could filter by subject to see what questions have been asked, and you could see what grade, and you could see what category. And again, this is a beta version. So this, it's like you could easily paint a house once it's completely built and you know what the structure of the house is. So the beta is where we are still creating the structure, where we are still, so it's not wise to paint it before you finish the structure. So if you see some quirks, let us know, but I want you to know that this is a beta site, so it is work in progress. So every single day, you will see something better. And so that's your questions. I would like you to now click on shared resources on the orange bar. And the same thing, you could drop down by subject, grade, or category. And the EdK12 library is the fourth tab. If you could click on that, you see this whole bunch of library contents, all this web screenshots of the actual websites. So yeah, so that's what EdK12 is all about. And if you click on any one of these resources, you would see what these resources are meant for. I am ready to go ahead and answer questions that you might have at this point. Okay, I think Nikki has stepped away, so I'm going to go through this chat form and see what questions I could answer at this point. Tammy, are you the moderator? Somebody has a question that says, is this an online?
Yeah, I'm here for you. so far?
Should we open it up for them to ask questions?
They are typing in chat a little bit right now. Can you see chat still okay?
Yeah, I can. I'm trying to go through the whole list of questions.
There you go. So far, pretty much people making comments, not so much questions, but there might be some that'll be coming in red about now that we're to the question time.
Yes, there was one question saying, is it an online school? No, it's not a school. We are not a school. We are a curation platform. We bring together content that's available, so you could look for apps, videos, projects, actual curricular content, digital books.
Okay, just making sure you notice the one asking if there is any information as to whether there are cost or free resources that are listed that are being suggested.
What you see, all of them here are free now. Whatever is there is a free resource. If we come across something that's great and it's paid, you will see that the $ with the cost of it, and it's up to you, and we don't promote anybody's resources. We just put up, if it's something great that everybody is using and absolutely useful, we would put it up and put a cost factor around it. But what you see, all these resources right now are free resources. And is there such a thing as OER apps for iPhone, or is it just free apps on the iTunes store? You know, that question, I'm going to answer it in two ways. There is no formal term called OER apps, but that said, many OER sources have apps. I have some NASA apps on the educator content library. So that NASA itself is an open educational resource, and they have this amazing mobile app. So if you think about it in that sense, there is an OER app associated with NASA. So we could form a term saying OER app for NASA, but there isn't a technical term there.
Okay, there's also a question on how to contact you.
I am going to put my email on the chat box, and I think it's also on the slides. And there was this other question I was just reading through. Is there a difference between iPad, iPhone apps? Yes, there are differences between iPad and iPhone apps. Are you planning any attempts to align your content with Common Core state standards? Just curious. I am not going to align any of my content with Common Core state standards, but if teachers are aligning it, I would highlight it saying, this teacher is aligning it this way, or this educational agency is aligning it that way. We are not going to align content because it goes against being unbiased. We don't want to be saying this works, or we are preferring one content over the other. So we don't want to say we want to say what works at what level, but not say how we are creating content or aligning a certain content and making it work a certain way. That sort of goes against individualizing it. We will allow to explore the game section. Okay, thank you. Please explore and keep me posted with your feedback. And I would love to hear feedback. So now that I have put my email out, please go ahead and email me with questions, comments, suggestions. I don't have ads. Yes, somebody pointed out. educator doesn't have ads. Yes, it will not have ads.
I don't think this one's been answered yet, so I'll pop this one in here. Let's see. Well, actually, it was Peggy responding to Tracy about behind the learners. Just in case Tracy didn't get a chance to mention that one, so that one's kind of indirect. It's one of the participants asking a question about something related to another participant's comment.
Oh, okay.
I haven't had a chance to explore it very much, but one of the courses that we have on our online homeschool co-op is one where the students do a good bit of research. Do you think this is something that students could just jump into if they had a topic that they were going to research, that they could go here and use it themselves?
Yes. We are working on a student portal which is COPA compliant that way, because if you give students user ID and password, if students are visitors, they don't register, these laws don't factor in. But if we register students on our site, we have to make sure that anybody below the age of 13 it's all COPA compliant, which is what we haven't done yet. So which is why we want to make sure those laws are covered. So if they don't register and they're just browsing through it, by all means go ahead and use it. Peggy, that's a wonderful question. That's what we are working on now, is a way to store the content in your personalized library. And we are working on that, so it'll be there soon. So the way I describe this is like a doctor's prescription so it would be almost like a doctor writing a prescription of sorts, saying that you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. And so your personal library would be both your personal collection, but if you're passing that on to somebody else, a teacher to student, or parent to student, you would be able to just filter a part of your library or filter a part of that and say, here is my list for you. Yes, Guru is a great tool. I was looking at what you're saying. Guru is a great tool, but they do not talk about iPad applications or anything on the Android platform. They only just talk about what's on Google and what's on Android, because they are sponsored by Google. Yeah, but it's a wonderful platform to look for content, and there's a lot more features because they are synced with Google. They use a lot of Google's features, and it's free. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. You go ahead, look through Educate register. Once you log in, to prevent marketers and spammers, we require that to ask a question or to comment on a question or answer something, you have to register. But to look through, you don't have to. So go ahead, look at the site and send us feedback, write to us. We would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for taking the time to spend this evening with us. I do appreciate that a lot. Do we have any more questions, or?
Okay, looks like questions have slowed down pretty pretty good bit. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Anybody that's here, if you want to come back and revisit it a little bit later, the recordings are going to be posted for all of the different session times. You can always come back if there's something later on you were wondering about, might have missed taking notes on it, or just want to come back, or tell colleagues about it. It'll be available for you.
Thank you, everybody.